Before starting this video, I just want to let you know that this video was supposed to be camera one, but I'm very ill, so I can't record my face in these trying times. So let's begin. This year is coming to an end. 2023 will soon replace 2024. The year has been exceptionally eventful to me, as I played some of the best games ever made till now throughout the year. The games were chosen at random and as occurrence, and there might be some light spoilers, so I have decided to sum all of them up in this video and express my thoughts about them to you. This video is going to be long, so sit down, grab some drink, enjoy with me as I unravel games that got me through 2023. My year started with Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I vaguely remember playing the very first Tomb Raider games at my friends' houses, but other than that, I had no remembrance whatsoever for this game. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is, being brutally honest, a one-time experience. I know this will sound very difficult, but Shadow of the Tomb Raider feels like another typical console action-adventure game, and well, it feels pretty standard. You know what I mean, in which you see some nicely done mocap cutscenes, a classic no-fail story arc where the difficulty very gradually and slowly increases that it becomes predictable in no time, and a very cautiously done game design. All of it looks very familiar. I am not saying it's bad, but it's not adventurous enough. This game took me around 1 week and a total of 30 hours to complete on the hardest difficulty possible with the controller. So that will give you an idea of the difficulty setting. Overall, it's a good game if you want no adventures and a perfect blend of story and action. Even though it took me a week to finish Tomb Raider, I was occupied with many other things that stopped me from starting any other new game. By the time I realized this, February came and I started playing Eastwards. Eastwards is an indie pixel adventure game with a post-apocalyptic setting and a cute but dark story. The game art is made in such a way that it really takes you back to the old days where we used to play on those huge CRT monitors with a thick glass. Its story eventually takes a dark turn in time, and with enough interaction from NPCs, you get to understand a lot about the lore of the game, and it's interesting to know too. The game design is also interesting where you control two characters with very unique abilities from each other. Level design is done so well and used all of the features of having two characters to control. It's a must-try indie game for everyone. Like that, February is over, and March with it, where I kept playing Valorant every day and that was it. Valorant or any other multiplayer game is like a filler content that I use to fill the gaps between one single player game to another. With that being said, April was somewhat different. I started playing Assassin's Creed Origins for the first time. Being played everything else in the series before, my expectations were high at first when I saw the game release, but unfortunately, before I'd get any chance to play Origins, I played Valhalla, and well, I was disappointed and my day was ruined. Valhalla was a hot mess with infinite hours of repetitive and forgettable course to progress into the story that keeps going off track to God knows where. So my opinions would become quite muddy and biased before playing Origins. And well, I won't say I was completely wrong about it, but Origins is good. With beautiful landscape and a refreshing take on game design, Origin comes in with some unique experience for the players. The story is interesting and well made in terms of pacing. It struck a perfect balance between story and combat parts of the game. Now coming to the bad parts, the combat in higher difficulty modes is spongy and boring. The stealth missions are not really stealth missions. The enemy AI is annoying and quite honestly, the game gives you a hard time if you try to do it in stealth. I have also tried the DLC for this game, which is hideous and utter crappy. The landscapes in one of the DLC is the most beautiful I have ever seen. But other than that, the game design is the same, where you have to finish off a bunch of guards to retrieve some stupid item, and in the end get faced by some random boss which just has more health than you in comparison. I stopped doing the DLC and moved on because I didn't want the game to leave a bad taste in my mouth. May was my time to crawl back into the past. I replayed Subnautica for the third time. Some games are like that, where you get a random urge to play the game for some 20 hours and then quickly abandon it. Minecraft can be a good example of such games. It was as beautiful as the first time I experienced it. First playthrough I played was in early access of the game, in which I was very terrified of the dark waters. And even for my third playthrough, I was still a bit terrified. The game progression is very organic and perfect. The narrative design is made so well that when you start thinking that you might be safe, the game introduces you to a more terrifying area to explore alone.
Some systems need attention.
After that, I tried Desta, The Memories Between. It's a simple roguelite puzzle game made by an indie studio, Us2 Games. It was a refreshing experience in a long time to play a casual but fun game. Us2 is the same studio behind Monument Valley series, which was a very popular game on mobile and with some crazy puzzles and unique art style. In June, I experienced the latest installation in Metro series, Metro Exodus. Metro Exodus is based on a novel written by Dmitry Glukovsky about the world wars and the post-apocalyptic world where civilization is living inside Metro system, hidden away from the overworld as it has turned into a battleground for mutated animals and radiation. Metro series was always amazing with their storytelling, world building and art style. The installments before this were of a linear progression, while as in Metro Exodus, players get a pseudo open world gameplay, meaning the story progresses through some widely different areas where player can roam freely and do missions as they please. The areas I got to experience were vastly different and unique, with many different enemy types and some very interesting boss fights. The progression in narrative is so well done that you won't know what will come next. Metro Exodus is also adventurous with their UI, making the map, upgrade system, inventory system as a world space UI, making the whole experience more exclusive and immersive. It's a short but worthy adventure to take on. On the exact day that I was born, I started the GOAT, the one and only. Elden Ring was my first actual Souls-like game, and it was mind-blowing. Elden Ring deserves an entire video, so I'm gonna do it. So to brief it in one sentence, it's one of the best games ever made till date. I was so mesmerized by the beautiful open world that I totally forgot you have to fight in the game. The narrative progression is so well made that even without any annoying quest markers, quest list, and any other books, the story comes to you organically by sheer exploration. I played the game seamlessly for 60 hours in my first playthrough, and well, didn't do much progression wise, but was so struck by the landscape it has to offer. When I was kind of stuck at a boss, I stopped playing the game because I felt that I had enough fun out of it. Until I didn't. I picked up the game again when I started this channel to play it live and beat it, with utmost focus and armed with my newly gained knowledge from many other YouTubers as well as players. I seamlessly crossed through the boss I was stuck at and proceeded to defeat many other mini bosses and story related bosses. And well, kept it at that. On my next urge to play Elden Ring, I will have some new experience and some new bosses to defeat, and I wish that the game never gets old. August was the most happening month of all to me in terms of video games. I played 3 very good games in a row and enjoyed every second of them with all my might. First one I finished was Marvel Spider-Man Remastered, and it was similar to watching a Marvel movie, but this time taking part in it. The core fighting mechanics of the game were heavily referenced from Batman Arkham series, but were a little toned down and were symbiotic to modern controller scheme. It's like I said before, it is a lay back on your couch and enjoy kind of game, and can be enjoyed best on a controller. Being the high budget game it is, it gives you a lot of nice cutscenes, animations, and very many attractive quick time events. After finishing up this game, I moved on to a newer installation in Assassin's Creed series, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Assassin's Creed Odyssey can be said as an escalated version of Origins. They also have introduced naval combat in it, and it adds another layer of exploration in it. Player can also choose any one of two characters to play with, and it immediately changes the story of the game. Stealth is no option here. Player is heavily incentivized to go out there in combat and win by brute force instead of choosing stealth. Combat feels spongy at times, but is definitely very satisfactory. The skill tree is a perfect balance between the never-ending tree of Valhalla and a sapling from Origins. Every new skill really changes the way you play the game, and you can change your playstyle anytime by resetting the skills. The entanglement of characters from the Spartan era as well as quests, including gods like Medusa, is outstanding. Moving on to the progression, the cult tree is no other than a job given to you by your boss. The ship combat is a complete mess. The hunter system is annoying and meaningless. Higher difficulties simply mean more HP to your enemies and less to you. And in the end, Assassin's Creed Odyssey does not have any hidden blade. After all that disappointment, I wanted the month to end in a good way. So I started a game with one of the most uniquely narrated stories, Death Stranding. Death Stranding is a kind of game that players extremely like or they extremely hate it. Death Stranding is a horror/drama walking simulator where getting parcels from one point to another is the player's objective in every situation. While it feels like a weird, boring game, it's not. After finishing the game, my legit reaction was like, man. The game lets you retrospect on so many things. The story is made so good and well, it's not really easy to understand at first. So you have to play it again, check some lore here and there, and then you start making sense of it. The combat and progression are made available to you in just the right amount that the game perfectly balances itself on the line of becoming an action game and staying a simulator game. UI is done in very unorthodox way and is a signature move in every Hideo Kojima games. The story pacing is slow and might test one's patience. The cutscenes can feel random and too long, but it all slowly starts making sense, and you just have to wait for it to click it together. Overall, it was a very different and unique adventure, and with that, I concluded my fun-filled August. September was where I spent my time playing Cyberpunk 2077 for the second time. See? CD Projekt Red released their best update, that is update 2.0, somewhere at that time, and I had to try it out. They were very consistent before in terms of sending patches and fixes with Cyberpunk, because most people know that Cyberpunk was a disaster at the time of launch, having so many glitches, bugs, inconsistency, balancing issues and more. It was the most controversial launch, but the studio was keen on fixing it. Update 2.0 did a lot of healing to the game. Most of the bugs are fixed by now. Most of them. They introduced an altogether different skill tree and progression that makes more sense as a player than it was before. A proper car buying system was also introduced, as before it was just a phone message based system and was not really helpful. I say they have fixed the game as much as they can, and it's beautiful anyways. If one can see through the bugs, the world they have to offer is very vibrant and happening. Performance has been also optimized and boosted a lot, and that is one of the reasons to play the game again or play it for the first time if you haven't. If you are expecting a GTA but in future, you would be disappointed. see the game as a different entity, and that will give you more than what you would normally expect. As the end of the year has started to appear on the horizon, I decided to be a little adventurous with my next games and took up Dishonored 2. Dishonored series is developed by Arkane and is set into a dystopian and steampunk themed world with a very distinct art direction. Their art direction is so unique that you can identify the devs after looking at the game for 5 minutes. Level design is somewhat similar to modern Hitman games, where technically player can finish the objective any ways they can. They get bonus for completing it in a certain way that devs intended, giving them a more accurate experience. Game also gives players plenty of choices that potentially change how the story turns out. After being stuck at some random level for so long, I abandoned the game and moved on. Next on the list was Civilization 6. Before that, I used to play Massive Assault a lot in my childhood that laid the base for my addiction to role-playing strategy games. Civ 6 has more than that to offer to the players. It switches roles quickly between a management exploration board game to a war strategy simulator. Every game is a very different thanks to different map features, different leaders to start with, and a wide range of difficulties present. Once you start the game, you're basically hooked to it for several hours and you really can't get up before finishing it up. It was like going back to the old days where I used to play Monopoly on a random Sunday for 6 hours straight and still not come to any conclusion. So we just used to count who was richer and declare the game. Just when I was starting to anticipate the end of this year, it took me by surprise. I was immediately sucked into it. Again, being this my first D&D type game, I was so confused, but so much involved in it from the start. And well, this game also deserves a full video about it, so I'll be as brief as possible. I talked with many people that used to play Dungeons and Dragons as a board game before, and they had so much to tell me about how this game is just magic and how they can actually feel like they are playing D&D on this game. Getting started with the game is a long process if you are new in this world. It takes about 2 hours of tutorials that are luckily endorsed by Larian, the devs behind this game. And once you start the game, sky is the limit. Game offers the player to do almost every interaction that might happen naturally and see immediate reactions as one would expect. For FPS players, the combat might feel slow and tedious at first, but once you start getting into it, it's the best thing ever. When you first boot up your adventure, I took 5 hours to design my character. There are so many different ways you can build your character and so many different play styles you can take on. Game also has a multi-classing feature where you can input abilities of 2 different classes into the same character. The game heavily promotes player for exploration, where you can take very many different paths if you explore the world around and change the whole story of the game. You can miss many opportunities to do some many crazy things that I did miss and plan to do in my next playthrough. It was no surprise that this game won so many awards, including Game of the Year 2023. That concluded by November. And here we are, December, end of 2023. I am assuming I would be busy working on this video for this whole December. So here are some honorable mentions that I will be going through this month. All thanks to my racing simulator. I am spending my spare time driving trucks on American Truck Simulator, driving racing cars on Assetto Corsa Competizione, and driving rally cars on WRC10. One last thing before going. All the video games I have mentioned here are already very good games. Even though they might have bugs or glitches or something like that, that doesn't mean that all the hard work devs put in is useless. We should always thank the devs for crunching to make good games that we really enjoy to play. Thank you very much for sticking through this video and sticking through all this year. The year has been amazing, and I wish next year does too. See you later. Till then, have a good time with your pizza. Bye bye.